All right, let's replace an air conditioner on this 2009 Jetta Sport Wagon. I believe they're the same on a lot of the years. The compressor that I ended up getting was this Vallejo one. The original one was a Sanden compressor. Sanden compressors had an issue often with this valve right here. They have a similar valve to this. Let's look at one. Most of the problems you're going to have with this car are going to be this valve, and replacing it with one of these RKX valves usually does it, but every once in a while, like in my car, I'm going to have to replace the compressor. Just so you know, these systems on this year car, on 2006 and up, as far as I know, I don't know how many years they made this, are a clutchless compressor. So this compressor constantly runs all the time. That is not an AC, that is not a clutch. It does not engage and disengage like most cars do. What they do is they have this valve right here that constantly is a varying pressure valve, and it's kind of a complicated system. Obviously, it was, I think, was kind of an overkill thing that Volkswagen did, but hey, it is what it is. If you want good gas mileage, the TDI gets great gas mileage. The air conditioning works great once you get these problems resolved. So if you are not sure, one of the ways to spend a little bit less money sometimes up front is to buy one of these valves and replace it. If you look inside here, there's a little snap ring. All you do is you take the snap ring out, you pull on this thing really hard. Sometimes they don't come out very easily. You have to kind of pry them a little bit back and forth and wiggle it all around, and you'll finally get that thing to come out. And you just slide the new one in, of course, with the air conditioning, all the air conditioning evacuated from the system. If you're anywhere in the United States, more than likely you're going to have to use the recovery system to take it out legally. If you're anywhere else, somewhere in the world where they don't care about that, somebody could hypothetically just push the Schrader valve in, or connect these lines here to here, and then open up these valves here, and the Freon would just kind of go into the atmosphere if it's legal to do so where you are, of course. And that's a hypothetical. I'm not telling you to do that. Hypothetically, somebody could do that. So once the Freon's out of the system, then this thing could be replaced. On most of the time, that will resolve most issues with the AC systems. A couple of other things that go wrong with them are also the fans stop working. So if you watch your fans and one of them's kind of going a little too slow and not really moving very fast, more than likely the motor's bad and needs to be replaced. So usually the auxiliary one goes first, and that's usually the one that I had replaced on mine. And then eventually sometimes the other side goes. You can replace the whole fan set if you want, if you're having that issue. Another thing that happens is if you have no air coming out of your vents, the blower motor usually is bad. That typically is underneath on that side. You just push a little lever and you twist the motor, it comes right out. There's a couple videos on that, so I won't need to put that up. Search for blower motor replacement, Volkswagen Jetta. You'll find some really nice helpful videos for that. The other thing that can happen is if that doesn't fix your air blowing out of your vents, there's something called a power control module. It's underneath here. The power control module could be bad. I don't know the J number for it, but there's a power control module under there, and so you don't have to listen to that dinging dinging. That could be bad, and that's about $450 dealer part, and it requires a VAGCOM or Rostec to coat it before it works properly. So keep that in mind if you were going to do that. It's a whole process to do that. I've actually done that on this car. That was the reason that I got this car in the first place, because the air conditioning didn't work for that reason. And it was a $400 part for me because I got a discount at the dealer, and I highly suggest you, if you do that, to ask for that. Sometimes you can get one, or you can look online. You can order it online. Sometimes the same dealer part, and some of the dealers will ship it to you for less than the actual dealer will where you go. So I was going to show you the RKX valve. I do not know where it is right now. I have one out of the car so you can see what it looks like. They do make a Chinese version of it. You know, honestly, it's about $20 difference in price or something like that, I would go for the name brand. I think those guys actually do a little bit of engineering on those and had pretty good luck with them. So anyway, if for some reason your RKX valve doesn't fix the system, then there's a couple options on compressors. There's Chinese compressors. Not going there myself. This one here is made in Czech Republic, and I believe this brand, Vallejo, is one of the newer brands that supersedes the Sandan one. So original equipment on most of the cars, early ones, was Sandan, and I don't know if maybe at some point Volkswagen got tired of Sandan because it had so many issues and went to Vallejo. So I don't know. That's my guess. Is I'm noticing like all the good quality parts places, Auto House Arizona, ID Parts, all sell the Vallejo compressors. So I can't find a Sandan anywhere. So I figure maybe this is the upgrade to the old system. Let's hope it is. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to put it in. It's really not hard to do. Okay, if you didn't get it in the beginning, Freon has to be out of the system. However you do that, that's up to you. And make sure you follow the legal guidelines wherever you're at. And for this repair, of course, I've already got mine off. The infamous belly pan, which I've made mine out of aluminum, if you watch that video, comes off first. So there's all the bolts along here, the 3 along the back, the ones around the front, and I hope that you would know already how to remove that. That's a common thing. Anything you do on this car, pretty much you got to take that belly pan off. So belly pan is already removed. So we've got a few things in the way. Looks like this tube here for the turbo is in the way. And then there's 3 bolts that hold the compressor in. I don't know. I think I can get it out of there without having to take off this tube, because this tube looks like it would not be very fun to remove. It actually is not very easy, but probably we'll need to take out this fender well. So to get this fender well out, let's go ahead and take this tube out first and take a look, and then see if we can reach our 3 bolts. There's one right here. There's one above the compressor. I can't see, can't get my hands in there. Have to be able to feel it. It's up there where my fingers are. And there's one back in here. And there's a wire connector right here. And then on the top of the compressor, where we can't see right now, there are 2 hoses connected to it. And those need to come off. So we can unhook this wire. I'll go ahead and do that. And I'll take this portion, this little thing off this clamp here. And then you just pull on this little guy here. And here, and then that should lock out of the way, and then you pull that hose off, and that thing comes right out of there. When I remove that out of the way, much easier. Once that's out of the way, then I'm gonna go ahead and twist this and let the belt come off. Got that piece out. Wires unplugged. I usually use this, and I'll go underneath here, and I'll pry up a little bit and move that tab. I don't know if you can see it. If I can get it to focus on that. Force focus. There's a little tab right there. Right there, you can see that little tab. I just lift that up a little bit. Or you can pry like this, like that, and it'll do the same thing. But a lot of times you break that little guy right there, so be careful. So what I'm gonna attempt to do is I'm gonna actually try to get all 3 bolts out and slide the compressor out this cavity here and see if I can unloosen the lines after. I really don't know. I've never done this car, but I've done my BRM engine, which is similar. It has a little bit more room for some reason in here, if I remember right, but this one's got a little tighter space. I think this tube isn't here. That's what it is. This tube isn't there. It's in a different position, so it's a little bit easier. But there's one bolt here, one up on the top. If you look at your new compressor, you can see that one of my index finger is touching one, and then there's one in the middle right here where my index finger is here. Okay. All right, I'm holding my hand over where the sun is. So if you can see in here, if you loosen the dog bone here, if you just take it out, loosen it or whatever, so that the engine swings around, so it swings around a bit, you can get the compressor down far enough to get the bolts out of the top. And you might say to yourself, Mike, that's a bit too much agility for me. And I would definitely agree. I think it's going to be kind of hard to get it back in this way. If you're wanting to avoid some of that, the thing that you can do, one of the things you could do is probably remove, either take out the 4 bolts to the fans and drop them down, okay? Or my bet would be easier, and I know I had a guy who wanted to tell me to make sure to let me know that he didn't have to, he took the air compressor out or lowered it down like what I did to get the alternator out that way. And I can tell you right now, going to service position is much faster. Service position, one guy on the TDI club says he can put his car in service position in 20 minutes, and that includes evacuating the air conditioning. And what service position is basically the whole front of the car comes off. It's not that hard to do. And you can just even just move it out a bit and put it on the jack instead of taking it all the way off if you don't want to. It is makes it much easier to work on. If you look up the video, service position, service mode, Volkswagen TDI, Jetta TDI, you'll find a video on how to do that. It's actually very easy and is very fast. So it does take some time. There's a lot of bolts to take out and stuff like that, but it's a lot easier. So if you don't like working in tight quarters like this, if you're like starting to work on this thing and you're going, man, dude, that is so hard to get to. That is hard to reach in there. And I just don't feel that. They go to service position and you'll see everything will be right here. It's very easy to get to. And you can leave the fans in place to do it. You don't need to take the fans out, because that's kind of a pain too. You take out the four bolts to reach the fans, to drop them down, are hard to reach. But if you service position, just take out this piece, that tube. You could even leave the radiator hoses on and just pull the front end away. It'll give you about 8 or 10 inches. You can reach right in the front and everything's right there. You can reach right. It gives you about 8 or 10 inches clearance. Just put the front end on a jack and leave the radiator hoses connected, and you'll be really happy you did that. So I may still do it, I'm not sure, but I'm going to try to just do the 2 bolts here just to see if it can be done. It probably could be. And you could somehow you could take this tube out right here and drop the air conditioner all the way down. That tube's not easy to take out either. Guys, service position is much easier to work on this car. A lot of the dealer guys are telling me service position, so they know what they're doing. I would listen to them first. So anyway, there's only 2 bolts to take these out. There's like one here where my finger is and one down here for the 2 high and low pressure sides. I can get them on film. Now that would be interesting. Yeah, just shove the camera up there. Hi, is there 2 on each one? Maybe there is 2. Yeah, maybe there is. There's one here and one back there for that side. Or are they both on one? It's hard to tell. Look at the other compressor. But if I get that one off and the other one off, I think the whole hose assembly, there's just O-rings and it just comes right off. I'm calling it. I'm going to go for service. It's just so much easier, guys. Somebody says, oh yeah, I can fight that. You can get it out of there. You know, service position, it's just so much easier. So I'm just going to go ahead and put the camera over here. I'll let you guys watch in high speed how quick I can get this thing in service. I can get it out. I can get it in service position in 15 minutes. So why would I fight this and go through all this aggravation if it saved me 10 minutes? It's a lot more aggravation. It's much easier just to go to service, pull the front end away, do your job, put it back. 8 bolts, the whole front end comes off. Done. All right, I'll bring you guys back in a minute. Unfortunately, guys, fortunately we lost the footage for the service mode. I had the camera set back nice and far, and I was going to just run you guys through and have you guys watch it from a distance. It took me literally 10 minutes of no aggravation to get to this point right here, so that I can just easily work on the front of this car. It's so much easier. This thing's just kind of hanging on this cable, on the cable here. The cable and hose is on one side. I got 3 of the 4 bolts out, and I had the 4th one loose. If you look up in there, see there's 1, 2, 3, 4 bolts. You get your bumper support, the bumper cover, and the grill. The grill comes out with 4 bolts. You got a couple up here for the front, this all the whole area. This includes the radiator, this is the radiator support that comes off, okay? And it includes the radiator, the fans, everything are still in place. I haven't even moved them. So it's kind of hanging on the fan wires, I think, down there. I'm gonna be kind of hanging on them. Hanging on something, it's just kind of dangling there a little bit, but it's not gonna fall. It's not gonna hurt anything. And now I can get right in here with my hands, no problem, and work on this air conditioning. So guys that don't do service, man, I mean, mastering service position on this car is the key to working on it. So all 4 bolts are out on this side. Wires are still connected. I didn't disconnect anything, and now I can reach my hands down there no problem. So if you haven't done service position, it's something you need to master to work on this car. Once you do that, you'll be like, oh, these aren't that bad to work on. When you don't know how to do service position, it takes a lot longer to work on this car. Should be able to get that air conditioning compressor out in no time now. I can see I've got 1, 2 of these star bolts to take out. On the top, I just slide it out where it's at, and I'm done. No worries, I can get right in there and clean everything, make sure it's going to connect and not be fighting anything. It's just so much easier, guys. Alright, so let me show you why it's so much easier. Now I can just use my 36-inch extension, and right without busting my knuckles or anything like that, I just go here, put my ratchet on the end of this. Let's see. So I can just put my ratchet on the end here. Take the hose off. Just so much easier, you guys. Not going into full service, just partial. Actually, you guys might look at me and go, oh, well, you got the car in the lift, and it's actually easier to do service position on the ground. It's just easier for me on my back and stuff like that to have a lift. It's actually slower. It's much slower to work on a lift, the car lift. So the compressor is loose. All I gotta do is get these hoses off. Wiggle them off of here. They're already off. I can actually reach in here and work. Pull out the bolts. I have to fight the fans. To me, the fans are a pain in the butt. Trying to take the fans out, trying to reach all 4 of those bolts. So much easier if you just do the whole front of the car. Okay, one hose is completely off. You have to wiggle them around a bit. Those O-rings are pretty good. Little O-rings on the ends of them. Make sure that those are lubricated with, I'll show you. These O-rings should be either replaced. They might be okay. I have some more of them, but always lubricate them. So anyway, the compressor's out. let me just pull it out real quick. I just got to lift up the car and then just pull it out the front. Looks like it'll come right out of there. All right, there you have it. Compressor's out. Just pulled it right out of the front. Now to put the new one in, if I started out in service position, I'd already be done with the whole job, because I can just get my electric ratchet right in there when it's in service and just get those bolts off easily and get this one off. But the way I was doing it, I had to use a 1/4-inch drive set, and I'm fighting everything, and it's just harder. You know, it's much easier when it's in service position like that. The parts just come right off the car easily. That's the way the car was designed. So anyway, if you want to fight it and go the hard way, to me, once you learn service position and do it over and over and over, you're going to be so glad that you just took the time to learn it. And once you know where all the bolts are to take it off in service, it's really fast. It really doesn't take long. Like I said, there's a guy on TDI Club, one of the biggest guys on TDI Club. He's the top guy for comments. Okay, whoever he is, I don't know what his name is. And he has that he can do service position in 20 minutes. I believe him. I mean, if you've done it a bunch of times, you could learn how to do that in like 20 minutes and have the whole front of the car hanging loose, and then it's real easy. When the whole front's all the way off, when you just take off, there's like a couple more wires and a couple plugs of wires in the hood cable and the AC lines. The whole thing's off. It's like really easy to get access to everything. So if you're fighting it out and you're finding out you're getting tired, you don't like working on your TDI, then try doing service position, and you will probably thank yourself for trying it. So once I did it, I was like, wow, this makes it just way easier. Okay, I'll talk to you in the next video. That's us how to get it out. I think if you see how I got it out, getting it back in is obviously going to be much easier once it's in service position. But I would just go straight to service position, take the sucker out, and put it back together. In fact, just leave the AC lines on the front of the car, and just leave it hanging like I just did, and it'll be so much easier. You'll be like, wow, all the bolts are right there. You can get your electric ratchet in there and just crank them off real quick, and take the belt off beforehand, and you're done. All right, talk to you in the next video. It looks like this is the same one. Oh, this is a Sandan. Original one was Sandan, and then these are the new. I think the later models were these, because they're made in Czech Republic, so I'm thinking that that's original equipment now. I thought this was, I wasn't sure if it was China or whatnot, but I think it definitely is original equipment now, or they got tired of Sandan's issues with their valves, and Volkswagen probably switched over to those. Anyway, that's my opinion. I don't know. I have no idea on that one. I'll talk to you in the next video. Please like, share, and subscribe.